Welcome to our session on Beyond the Dashboard, Modern Observability for Platform Engineering at Scale. Okay. So we are here today to talk about everything observability. So we know there's a lot of noise that you get. There's what do I observe, what part of the stack. And then you have, teams building internal developer platforms, self-services, experiences, and all of that. And you're adding observability to that, and how does it evolve? We are here to talk about all those things. We're also going to throw in a bit of AI, because why not? We're here, And so I'm really excited about this group of amazing people who I get to moderate and be here with, all experts in observability, all people who use it daily, some end users. It's really great. So I'm going to throw it over to all of you to introduce yourself. Should we start?
Can I say something? We don't have any slides as part of this presentation. It's just our faces. So if you want to take a moment and come to the center so we can look at you and you can look at us, I invite you to do that. If you like to be on the edge, there's no pressure. I respect your choices. But
come on, join us.
Yeah, hello, friends.
This is exciting.
So we'll take this moment to introduce ourselves. Since I've been talking, I'm Whitney Lee. I'm a senior technical advocate at Datadog. But just take mine.
Okay. Thanks, Whitney. So my name is Payal Bagga. I'm a product manager at Intuit.
Hello. Okay. Hi, my name's Khallai Taylor. I'm a principal solution architect for platform at E.ON. That's in Germany.
My name is Stevie Caldwell. I'm a tech lead for the SRE team at Fairwinds.
And I should probably introduce myself, because I didn't before. I'm Danielle Cook. I'm a CNCF ambassador, and I have the privilege to know all of these people who I met at KubeCrash, which is a virtual event that I plan with my good friend Lisa. So if you ever see KubeCrash, you should attend it. Just throwing that out there. Okay, so let's kick this off. We're going to baseline. What is observability now? I'm going to throw it over to Whitney.
So observability in the past and now is about logs, metrics, and traces. But in the past, we considered those things three separate pillars. You might hear the pillars of observability. Now, we like to think of those things as a braid, a streaming braid of data, because we want correlation between those three signals. And the basis of that correlation is OpenTelemetry. The industry is starting to unite around the standards of OpenTelemetry, and that can really unlock a lot when you can correlate everything, and no matter what angle you're looking from, no matter whether you're looking as a developer or an SRE or any other place, you're seeing a holistic picture of what's happening and what you care about. We also have, to unlock this, part of what's important is getting your developers to instrument their code, which we'll talk about later. Giggles, yes, I get it. And then finally, I just want to also mention that any code has become observable. So even like your scripts and CI/CD pipelines. So we're trying to get a holistic picture of literally everything that's happening. So some of those are some general observability trends with or without platform engineering.
Well, and to that point, when you can observe everything, then it becomes really, really, really noisy, because it's like, what really matters? And so, is it too much telemetry? We obviously want to prioritize this. So let's talk about how we prioritize it and what signals matter. Over to you.
Oh, really?
Over to you, Stevie.
Okay. Yeah, so a lot of alerts, a lot of metrics can be noisy, can lead to alert fatigue and missing critical alerts because you're just like, I'm going to ignore that. So one of the things that I think is important is to think of your alerting from the perspective of your users. So using like the user experience as your North Star for the metrics that you choose. So for a company like where I work at Fairwinds, our users are the folks for whom we build and manage Kubernetes clusters. And so a bad user experience for them is anything that like prevents them from deploying deploying or running their workloads on these clusters. So this is like if someone's trying to deploy a new version of their app and nodes aren't scaling up to accommodate their new pods or something like that. That's a bad user experience. So that's the sort of thing that we want to know about and we want to alert on. And it's important that we alert on the trend, and not just like, blips, because that can be noisy. There's some just operational blips that are just happen, right? But we take a look at the trend overall, and that's what tells us that there's a problem. And lastly, I'd say one of the most important things for us for decreasing noise or to improving our noise to signal ratio is doing a lot of reviewing of alerts and pages that we get on like a regular cadence. So we all get together in a Zoom room, and we're like, that woke you up. Were you able to do something about it? Was that something that actually, required action on your part? And if it wasn't, then we need to review that and potentially like take that alert out of the pool.
Payal, anything to add to that?
Yes. So one of the challenges in observability today is actually not the lack of data, but the volume of it. And at Intuit, also, we found ourselves like drowning in these alerts and metrics. And each of them is claiming to be important. But at that time, you start to lose the distinction between like what is a signal versus what is noise. So to tackle that, we did a few things. One of the first things was you define what important means. So we created these out-of-the-box observability signals for each service, and these were anchored around golden signals. So you have availability, latency, error rate, etc., request count. In addition to that, we came up with these failed customer interactions to see how the customers are interacting with our web and mobile apps. So now you are doing customer impact as well as infrastructure as metrics. After that comes thresholds. So Intuit's business is highly seasonal. The traffic that you see in February might be very different from April because of the tax season. So at that point, the static thresholds become very useless. So we invested in AI ops to look at the traffic patterns and historical baselines and automatically adjust those thresholds. And finally, to your point, for each alert, ask a question. Is this actionable? If it's not, then it probably belongs in like an FII dashboard somewhere. So with this, you can reduce alert fatigue and be razor focused on what matters. It's customer experience and reliability.
I love that. Both of you talking about customer experience in different ways. Love it. I think what we talked about is around, this deep visibility that you can have across everything. And so, Khallai, this one's for you about kind of balancing that deep visibility with cost pressures. And it, especially as kind of volumes grows and you adopt microservices and multi-cloud environments, like how do you balance that?
So within E.ON, we have an observability team, but we also have our operations team. So we have a special work group that works together with someone from observability, someone from operations, and also our data science folks. And we're trying to make sure that the metrics that are being collected are relevant to what we need. Are they meeting the SLOs that we have, the SLAs? We're matching that to make sure that we are getting the value that we're looking for out of our observability platform. Everything's a work in progress, though, because we have all these different maturity levels as well. So, yeah.
Well, and I think everything within, this space that we work in is all different maturity levels. And, one thing that you're doing, you might be starting here, and eventually, you'll be the expert on a panel.
All of us as humans are different maturity levels, too.
Yes, good point. Okay, Whitney, now that you have the microphone. So when building self-service platforms, you're designing observability, developer experience. How do you get them to have a great developer experience without causing more work?
How do we get developers to instrument their code is what you're asking.
Yes.
Let's briefly say why we want to put in this effort, which is if your developers instrument their code, then you can have, as platform engineers, you can connect what you're doing to real business value. And that is everything. So it is a high-stakes situation and something worth putting the work in on. So if you roll out a new feature and you can say our checkouts were 10 seconds, they're now only 5 seconds, where then you're winning at platform engineering. And so, for one thing, you can instrument a lot of things without developers needing to lift a finger. So you can put in some work there first before you're asking them to do stuff. So you can instrument, you can use your service meshes picking up observability signals. Are you collecting and using those? You can use Cilium or stuff at the kernel level, a technology called Pixie. You can be picking up observability there. OpenTelemetry has auto instrumentation that can instrument stuff that is not the code level stuff that's unique to your business. So those are 3 places you can be instrumenting if you're not instrumenting there. So that's a good place to start. Once you have those things covered, and it's time for the developers to instrument, what you need to do is give them value for instrumenting. So you don't say, hey, pretty please, will you help me out, instrument? You say, here, I've made dashboards for you out of the box. When you instrument, you can use these dashboards. They're a feature. We're not asking you for a favor. We're giving you a feature. You're welcome, not please. And then that is going to help motivate them because they have value for themselves. And then, of course, just like any platform capability, you want to provide the ability to customize. So they have that in their dashboards that you give to them, too. And then the last thing I want to say is another truism of platform engineering is make the right thing to do, the easy thing to do, which is, so when you need consistent observability across your entire organization, if you just leave it to your developers, please instrument, you're going to get developers who say user.id, and someone else who does user_ID, and someone else who does user-ID. And then now you can't take that user ID and use it across all your microservices. So you need to provide consistent, OpenTelemetry in and of itself will give you a semantic versioning. No, that's not the right thing. What? That's a silly thing to fall out of my head right now, but it's a lot to say. So semantic conventions, there they are. So OpenTelemetry gives you semantic conventions, but then you're also going to want to make telemetry conventions that are unique to your business. And so as platform engineers, it's going to be your job to standardize those, to centralize those. OpenTelemetry has a project called OpenTelemetry Weaver that will help you do that. And then you can provide that to your developers as a library that they can then use. They can use autocomplete, they can do compile time validation. There's a lot they can do with that, but that's your job as platform engineers to give that to them.
So I have a quick question.
Oh, no.
What do you do if you're getting pushback to using OpenTelemetry? Resistance to even exploring OpenTelemetry or the collector?
Okay, interesting. So, and who's giving you that resistance? The developers, or is it coming from above? I mean, I'm going to have
the developers.
The developers are
Certain ones, not all.
I mean, I want to solve this problem at a micro level, but really the answer is if you can show them how it's valuable to them, if you can show them how, here, look, when you have this trace ID, you can zoom in and see all the logs associated with that one trace. You can go and pick out a metric that has to do with just this. If they can see the holistic picture of how it works together, if they have value from it, then that's the best you can do. If not, then just get rid of them and get some new developers.
I keep trying.
I love that. Just get rid of them.
Just get rid of them.
It'll be fine.
Find some new ones.
It will be great. No problem. Okay, we're going to keep asking you questions, Whitney. You're on the hot seat. So this is around, is there a specific example you have where you can have seen approved observability directly impact a KPI?
A KPI, no, but I have a good observability story that I will tell you. A key performance, no, well, whatever. You can tell me in the end if this is a good KPI or if it's just making the platform engineers, everybody's life better. So as platform engineers, you're providing this extra layer of abstraction between the developers and getting their stuff into production. And so when it's not working, how they're always coming to you, right, and being like, hey, is the platform broken? Hey, is it you or is it me? Something's not working. Is it you? Is your platform breaking? And so this is a great place where observability can come in, and you can give them a dashboard just to show them that that capability is working. So at Datadog, we have a customer block, and I talked to a platform engineer there, John Winton, and he told this story of he was having that problem, or their platform team at Block was having that problem. And what they did is they used so first they defined a user journey. So they defined the user experience they want their developers to have. The example he used was they want their developers to be able to do a blue-green rollout, and it's using Argo rollouts under the hood. The developers, that was invisible to the developers. And so they defined what success looks like. And then they made tests around that using Kyverno Chainsaw. So Chainsaw is part of the Kyverno project. It's a way to make Kubernetes-based tests where they're declarative, they're versioned, and most important of all, they can be packaged along with your Helm chart. So then whenever that Helm chart's deployed or whenever anything happens, then that test automatically runs, and they know it's working before, they know if something's broken before the developers do. But then they took it a step further and added a technology called KuberHealthy. It could be KuberHealthy, I don't know. KuberHealthy, and what that one does is it runs those tests on a cron job, and it emits metrics. So then they made dashboards around those KuberHealthy metrics, and then the developers, they didn't come in the Slack channel and say, hey, is the platform down? So it's not working. They could go and see on their own whether all their services were up.
So it's really a kind of developer success metric.
Yeah, okay.
Or like a metric where my developers aren't complaining to me. Yes, I got it.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about AI. But when I ask these questions around AI, we want to also have you answer by defining what you mean by AI in your response. So I'm going to just give kind of how we've laid out the definition of this. So we either want to quantify if we're using AI tools as part of a workflow, so like using agents to build workflows that leverage observability data, or if we're using AI to create tooling, so an LLM, that we're using to monitor and debug GenAI applications themselves. We're good? We have baselined on that, everyone? Okay. So my first part A to this question, because we have part A and part B, is so with AI, it's being increasingly applied to observability. What is most exciting about this? Like, where is this headed? And like, why are you excited about it? And Khallai, we'll start with you.
So I feel like what we're really trying to do within E.ON is be able to figure out how we can use agentic AI agents in order to make the development process smoother and quicker, as well as being able to observe our different environments. So we are using New Relic for our observability, and we're working with them with their agentic AI agent that they have to be able to improve some of the processes that we're doing. So we're really excited about that. We have an entire AI and data team that is working on creating different LLMs that are, I don't know exactly how it works, connected to MCP. So they're doing a lot of fancy stuff. And because it's all kind of in beta right now, we haven't really rolled it out. It's just being piloted, but it looks extremely promising. And because we're in a very highly regulated field, which is energy, and we have these compliance standards we have to meet, we have to be careful on how we roll things out to make sure that we're following all the regulations and guidelines, not only for Germany, but for EU and the other European countries in which we operate.
Awesome. Payal, you want to add to this?
Sure. So what is most exciting, and Whitney, you touched upon this a little bit, is how AI is helping us connect all of this observability data together. So for example, you have a spike in latency, which is a metric. You can take an error pattern in logs or a service call in traces. AI can take all of this raw telemetry and convert it into insights. and that's very exciting. After insights, it doesn't stop there. You have actions. So these days, you can build intelligent agents that perform these diagnostic actions. Like at Intuit, we are building such agents. They continuously monitor observability data in real time. They can identify root causes and even perform remediations on your behalf. So how you're closing this loop between detection, diagnosis, and action is very exciting, in my opinion.
Awesome. Stevie, anything to add?
Yeah, sorry. I think I would just add that, for us, because of the unique position that we're in, where we're managing other people's clusters for them and therefore tying into their Datadog accounts or their observability platforms, we don't really have the hand to just say, this is how we're going to do things, and you have to do it our way. But I am pretty excited about like causal analysis, as you were saying, in AI usage, and the natural language capabilities that you can tie into that. So as someone, when an engineer gets alerted at 3 a.m., and especially if there's like a big outage, US East 1, and there are, you can get like hundreds of alerts happening all at once, and that's a big cognitive load for engineers to have. It's very difficult to figure out what the root cause is, and it's really easy to also to give into confirmation bias during these sorts of incidents, right? And so having something like AI behind the scenes that can take all of these metrics, all these logs and traces, and make a correlation between the different services and see the cascading failures and tell you that in like 3 minutes, this is the root cause of this issue, and that you can ask it that in pretty simple language. At 3 a.m. you're not putting together sonnets, right? You're just like, what happened? I think that is super exciting and useful for engineers and for our field.
I love that. You're not putting together sonnets at 3 in the morning. I don't know. Okay, so we've done the positive side. What about the flip side? Like, what are the things that you're most concerned of? And Payal, we'll start with you this time.
Okay, so I would say it's autonomy without accountability. So as we start trusting AI to reason over our observability data, we want to make sure that it's not just confident, but it's actually right. And we, again, to give you an example, we have been using these evaluation frameworks called LLM as a judge. So LLM as a judge is basically an automated evaluation framework. It uses these large language models, and they will look at the quality of the AI output and judge it on different criteria. You can have correctness, relevance, completeness. So this feedback loop is very critical. I feel like as much as you're investing in automations, you need to invest in these guardrails. Just to kind of like summarize or end it, every automated action should itself be observable and reversible.
All right. Clea, would you like to add anything to that?
I think what I'm worried about is taking the human out of what's happening. So it's important for us to keep a human in a loop at all times, because any of these AI agents can have hallucinations, which is something I learned about. I was like, how can a machine hallucinate? And then I went down the rabbit hole, and good Lord, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
So I'm very worried about that, but we're trying to put guardrails in place to make sure that we mitigate for that when it comes to our observability platform and our telemetry data. So yeah.
Would you like to add anything to that?
I'd love to weigh in just a little bit.
Amazing.
Absolutely, the human element, and that's one of the things that concerns me, or I wouldn't say concerns, but I feel like it's important to keep in mind. You all are familiar with South Park and the "they took your job" thing. Like that's a thing that I feel like is behind a lot of AI panic. But ultimately, what I worry about is atrophy. I worry about over-dependency on these tools, and you still need to be able to manually troubleshoot an issue, right? And so that's the only thing that gives me pause and makes me say, like, that's an important thing, the human element. Like, you still need to be able to do this work yourself and not rely on just these AI tools.
Whitney, do you want to add something to this?
I'll add a word about guardrails. You may have noticed around KubeCon that there are a couple, well, first of all, like, You still want admission controller policies. There are like programmatic ways to make sure AI cannot mess up your stuff. That was a much nicer expression that was in my
That's not
head.
what you wanted to say.
Mess up your
I
stuff.
will mess up my stuff. Got it.
So you could use the mission controller policies at that level, of course, but also this technology Spiffy Spire has been blowing up because you can automate giving workload identity to your AI processes, and in doing so, you can make sure they don't modify anything they're not able to modify. So do that. Do it.
Do it. That you have all been told to go do that. Okay, so we have 4 minutes left. So we're going to do kind of a quick response to this, but actually we have 4 minutes, so it doesn't have to be too quick. So looking ahead with, when trend, technology shift in observability, or platform engineering, we can go there too, that you're most excited about or concerned about. You can do either way. Super excited or super concerned about. So let's throw it to you, Stevie.
I'm going to choose an easy one. OpenTelemetry. I think the adoption, the increased adoption, is really awesome. I like the lack of vendor lock-in. I say lack like that's a negative thing, but I can't think of a better word. But there's no vendor lock-in, right? It decouples the instrumentation from the data storage and from the processing. And you mentioned earlier a thing that I had just learned about that OpenTelemetry does, which is that auto instrumentation, which is really cool for brownfield environments. Like we talk about, you need to instrument from the beginning during dev time, but we all have inherited, applications and systems that did not adhere to best practices, and so I think that that tool, that capability, really opens a lot of doors. I think it's very cool.
Khallai, you're next. We're just go down the line this time.
I agree. I believe that the OTel collector is a powerful tool, and it can be extremely helpful for our organization and how we have things set up. What I really like about OTel is the standardization, the semantic conventions that you can have based on the different languages that are being used within your environments. And I have been preaching internally about the OTel collector, but it's a slow adoption, but people are starting to see the importance of semantic conventions because we've been having issues with how labels and tags are being created for our metrics. You can have latency and you have all these different tags for the same thing, and we can't figure out that there's a correlation because of the way it was tagged and the way it's named. If we followed semantic conventions for, let's say, Java, they would be using the same naming convention, and then we could all know what's happening. So I agree. I'm going to say OTel all the way.
OTel all the way. Okay. Payal, over to you.
So looking ahead, it's how we are moving away from human-first observability to machine-first, like I mentioned before, like these intelligent agents. But one of the things we want to make sure is we are prepared for that. So from the platform engineering perspective, what you need is clean APIs and well-defined schemas. And then second, again, I will repeat this because guardrails are important so that AI does not act out of intent. But that is what I'm most excited about.
Yeah. What I'm personally excited about, I've been playing with instrumenting my code, like as a developer, instrumenting my code with OpenTelemetry, sending it to the backend, and then using an MCP server when I'm coding with Cloud Code, and using that observability to help debug in real time what I'm actually doing. So it helps me debug, it helps me give my Cloud Code, my coding agent, a holistic view of my system instead of it just doing static analysis and grepping for keywords and missing a bunch of stuff that I wanted to see. It helps me not repeat myself. I've really been enjoying OpenTelemetry or telemetry data in general as helping in the moment of development. I think that's the future.
Awesome. Well, all of you had great point of views. We've learned that OpenTelemetry, if for whatever reason you're not using it, it's time. And Spiffy, Inspire, so tools that you've been told it's time to go investigate. I think they're in the project pavilion, right? They would be, maybe. I don't know.
They were yesterday. It changes.
Yeah, it does change. Thank you so much for all of your opinions. If you do have questions, you can come up at the end and grab them. They are incredibly smart people who know so much about this space. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.